Life has a way of throwing curveballs, especially when we least expect it. Some days it feels like everything is falling into place, and then other days it feels like the whole weight of the world is on our shoulders. And the difference between crumbling under pressure and rising above it? Resilience. But what if I told you that resilience isn't something you're just born with? It's something you can build, kind of like a muscle. Today, we're diving into the art of resilience and emotional strength, and we're breaking down practical ways to strengthen your mental fortitude so that you don't just survive challenges, you thrive because of them. Hey there, and welcome to Mindful Chatting, the space where we have real, honest conversations about mental health, personal growth, and navigating life with more ease and confidence. I'm Kristen, a therapist and mental health educator, and today we're talking about something we all need at some point in our lives: resilience. Resilience isn't just about being tough. It's about learning how to adapt, regulate our emotions, and develop the skills to bounce back from life's challenges. And in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the key strategies to cultivate resilience, from shifting your mindset to practical tools you can use daily. Plus, I'll share book recommendations, apps, and real-world techniques that you can start applying today. So grab your comfort drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Before we get into all of the practical tools and strategies that I like to leave you guys with, we first have to talk about what is resilience. And resilience is this capacity to adapt and grow in the face of adversity. It's kind of that inner strength that enables you to really navigate those challenges, whether they be big or small, and to come out on the other side with like this newfound wisdom and this newfound sense of yourself. It's not about avoiding difficulties, but rather about learning how to work through them effectively. And why does this really matter? Because building resilience helps improve, obviously, your overall mental health, but it does reduce anxiety and depression, and it fosters this sense of control over your life circumstances. It can also enhance this problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, and this adaptability to uncertain situations. So we're going to dive into the different types of strategies that you can use to build your resilience. And so the first one we're going to talk about is growth mindset. So a growth mindset is this belief that abilities and your intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. This is not something you're born with, but something that you adapt and create for yourself. And when you adopt this mindset, challenges become opportunities, and they're opportunities for learning rather than considering them threats. So how do we develop a growth mindset? First, we have to reframe any negative thoughts that we have. So instead of saying like, I can't do this, we're going to say something like, I can't do this yet. And this changes the way we look at something. This is saying, I haven't learned this yet, and I'm going to learn this. And so we manifest almost in this way of that this is something I can do for myself. We also want to celebrate our effort over the outcome. So the journey, not the destination. What we learned instead of what we accomplished. And that changes that growth mindset, because we should always be constantly learning and growing instead of going to this particular destination or the thing that we're trying to accomplish. We also want to change the way we look at setbacks. We want to think about setbacks as seeing them as something that challenged us instead of failures. Because I didn't do this particular thing, I failed. Instead of it's, oh, I just needed to learn something. This is a learning opportunity instead of something that I failed at. So there is a couple books and apps and tools that I want to go through this episode with. But when it comes to developing this growth mindset, there is a really good book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. And this book explores the power of belief in shaping success and provides some actionable strategies from shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. There's also this app called Elevate, and it's a brain training and cognitive growth app. And it's designed to improve not only your cognitive skills, but your focus and your adaptability through these interactive exercises. And I'll put a link in the show notes for all of these things as I go through them. The second strategy is building strong relationships. A strong support system is really crucial for resilience, and creating meaningful relationships can help provide emotional support, encouragement, but also the sense of belonging. So, how do we strengthen relationships? Well, we want to check in with our loved ones. If we want someone to check in with us, we also have to check in with them. We can also join support groups or communities with those shared types of interests. We have our blog as our community, but we also have a work-life balance Facebook group that goes over a lot of mental health topics and things to provide support for everybody. We also want to practice active listening and empathy in conversations. If you want to learn more about sparking your relationships and learning how to actively listen and really gain and strengthen relationships, we have a really good blog post. It's about couples counseling, but it does talk about active listening and empathy and how to really cultivate conversation and communication that will build relationships. And I can put a link in the show notes for that one as well. There's also some good books. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown is a really good one. And this book emphasizes the importance of vulnerability and connection in building strong and authentic relationships. There's also Meetup app. Meetup is really good because it helps users find local and virtual groups based on interests and fostering meaningful social connections. So that's a really good app if you're looking for something that's around you. Facebook is also a really good because Facebook is really about community and connection. So there's a lot of Facebook groups and pages that talk about your local support system that you can use to help build and foster a support system and relationships that you need to cultivate this resilience. Strategy number 3 is about using self-compassion. And self-compassion involves really treating yourself with kind of the same kindness and understanding that you would offer really a friend that was in the same distress. And self-compassion is about relating to our own suffering. So we're not being pitiful or sympathetic. We're actually empathizing with our situation and our experience and normalizing it for ourselves to kind of decrease the intensity of the experience so that we can work through the challenge and overcome the adversity. So how you practice self-compassion is by avoiding the self-critical part of you. And we want to replace the self-criticism with self-encouragement. So an example of this could be, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this, or I'm so stupid. Instead, we want to replace it with more self-compassion of anyone who would be in my position who's learning this would be struggling right now. It's really just validating what you're going through because you are going through it and saying how normal it is for someone that's going through this to feel this way or to be experiencing these challenges or these setbacks. We also want to engage in self-care activities that really nourish your mind and your body. And this is not scrolling. This is definitely not doom scrolling or binge watching TV. Now, a lot of people scoff at this because a lot of people have shows that they're really interested in and get really involved in. But I always look at people and ask them, is when you're done with your self-care activity or hobby, do you feel rejuvenated? Do you feel creative? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like you have this excess energy because you feel really good after you do it? Or are you wanting more and it feels like it's never enough? Or you have this irritability or anger because you have to end it. That is when I look at those two things. That's not self-care. That is disassociation and detachment and kind of burnout and checking out, where your self-care strategies should be invigorating you, should bring you back to life when you're done with them. Yeah, it's sad that I have to end them, but I'm not in this sense of I don't know when I'm going to get this, so I have to hurry up and overindulge in this activity for this fear that I'm never going to be able to get it back. You can also use affirmations and gentle reminders that kind of tell you that you're doing the best that you can with what you have. Affirmations, and I've used this in other prior episodes, affirmations really only work if you're using it in the same language that you talk to yourself. So if I were to say, I'm so beautiful today, well, I'm not necessarily going to actually use those words and say those things, but I can say oh, you look great. If we use the language, we're more likely to believe it instead of using affirmations that have this language that doesn't hit. We are our biggest bullshit reader. And so if we're going to use language and phrases and sentences that aren't matching the language, we're going to read through it. It's not going to stick and it's not going to last as long. So some tools and strategies: Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. That book is always really, really good if you want to start on your self-compassion journey. That book really introduces some scientifically backed techniques to help foster this self-kindness and this emotional resilience. I love Brain FM, and this is a meditation, also mindfulness app, but it also helps puts you into different states of mind based on different brainwaves that it trains to you. So it also has guided sessions on like self-compassion, stress reduction, and emotional healing, and I'll put a link in the show notes for both of these things. Strategy 4 is about developing problem-solving skills, and resilience includes this ability to kind of approach problems in a logical way, and we want to break them into more manageable steps. And so how we can strengthen our problem-solving skills is by identifying the problem clearly before looking at the solution. I think sometimes when we have problems, we go straight into how do I solve this, or how do I make this go away, or how do I calm this down, instead of actually really identifying like what is really going on here. Like, how are people feeling about this? How are people perceiving the problem? How is this problem impacting and affecting everyone, not just myself? And so it's clearly identifying what's going on so that we can actually think of a solution that's maybe not more of a band-aid approach, but something that could be more long-lasting that can help us longer down the road. We can also use brainstorming as a way to think of multiple solutions before choosing one. Brainstorming can really be like consulting with other people or your support system or your family or your friends. But brainstorming can also be like journaling and writing down all your thoughts and using mind mapping tools, or anything that really gets all of your thoughts and your ideas out in a way that it's visual, because sometimes when we have a visual way of looking at the problem, it creates this detachment, so we can look at it in a different way and it's not emotionally driven. When we look at problems and we stay in our head, we tend to loop, and that really misses some solutions that could have been really helpful with the problem. We also want to learn from our past problem-solving experiences. So we want to think about, is this problem, is this associated with any other types of problems that I've been in before? What did I do in the past? What worked? What didn't work? And trying to figure out, also, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where can I delegate? How can I get help from people so that maybe I can delegate this problem to someone else, or someone else that can help me, so that maybe I don't feel responsible or obligated to do this whole thing all by myself. If you're looking about expanding your brain to kind of doing these problem-solving skills, Luminosity is really good. It's a cognitive training app that's designed to kind of enhance these problem-solving, critical thinking, and adaptability skills. There's also a really good book called Decisive, and that's from Chip Heath and Dan Heath. And this book provides kind of a framework for making better decisions when you have really complex situations. Mindfulness and stress management is always a really good strategy when it comes to resilience, because mindfulness practices can help you kind of manage your stress, but it also helps you maintain clarity during these difficult times where things can be emotionally overwhelming and very intense for you. So some ways to kind of practice mindfulness is really engaging in daily meditation or some deep breathing exercises. And some people think that we have to do these for long periods of time for it to be effective. There are studies that have shown that if you do meditation or any kind of mindfulness practice for 10 minutes a day, you can actually change the gray matter in your brain. And so you don't have to do this for long periods of time. It doesn't have to be where you're completely blanking. Mindfulness-based meditation is basically being more present with what's going on and being in this flow and engagement with it. So it's not you going up on a top of a hill and, being like a monk. It doesn't have to be that intense. It could be these daily practices that you do in your life. We also want to use grounding skills, and grounding skills and activities can look like journaling, mindful walks, doing hobbies and things that you really love. We have a great grounding and vagus nerve exercise bundle that I can put up a link in the show notes for, that has a lot of different strategies to help kind of ground yourself in this mindfulness state. We also want to limit our exposure to negative news and these kind of digital distractions, which I know in our time, which I'm recording this in March of 2025, there's a lot going on in the news right now, and it's all over social media, and it's all over really everything that we're digitally connected to. And so it's really hard to get away. And so I've been giving clients some skills and tips of like using limits or setting intentional time of when I'm going and getting my news. I'm also having people use like direct information to get their information about what's going on in the world, like using maybe AI programs that doesn't have this like scare tactics or these fear-based hooks that get us in this sense of anxiety states. And so it's just the experience of looking a lot of these at these news and stuff like that can be really hectic and really emotionally overwhelming. And so setting a lot of limits for yourself can be really helpful and effective. There's also the book, The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, and this book teaches a practical mindfulness exercises that can cultivate a peaceful state of mind that can be really helpful for you. Our physical health, which I don't think a lot of people think is connected to our mental health, but it is intrinsically interconnected. And so thinking about our physical health is super important. It is directly linked to our emotional resilience. And so taking care of your body helps build a stronger foundation for you. So exercising regularly, even if that's just simple walks, walking in general is really, really good for problem solving, because if you're stimulating both sides of your body, you're going to be looking at things a whole lot more clearer. You're also grounding yourself by stimulating both sides of your body with walking. So exercise, but you don't even have to do something intense. Walking can be perfectly fine. Maintaining a balanced diet. This is really helpful because it's not just about physical health and eating correctly, but what we put in our body, and if we're eating enough and to what we need, our mental health and our brain health just improves with all of that. So it's definitely all interconnected. Sleep and establishing a routine, a nighttime routine, is very, very helpful when it comes to not only maintaining your physical health, but maintaining your mental health and your emotional well-being. Because sleeping helps with emotional regulation. And so if we're sleeping and we're getting quality, good sleep, we're better able to regulate our emotions in distressing and challenging times. And establishing this nighttime routine is really helpful because we're signaling and conditioning our body and our brain that it's time to go to sleep. And so instead of falling into exhaustion where we're not going to have really good quality sleep, we're relaxing and slowly going into sleep, we're going to have more quality and better enriching sleep this way. MyFitnessPal is a really good app. I use this one personally, and it kind of helps with tracking your nutrition and also your fitness, but it helps you maintain your balanced lifestyle, and you can create goals and macros in there and just be able to challenge yourself. And they also have fitness on this app. There's a bunch of different things that you can do, and this app is free, but paying for it, you can get a lot more features, but it's still helpful because it's not only just tracking, but knowing and remembering and bringing awareness to what you're putting into your body is just going to help you with maintaining that physical health. There's a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which is a really good book about science of sleep and its impact on the mental and physical health. Now I want to talk about cultivating emotional strength. And emotional strength is the ability to understand, manage, but also harness your emotions effectively. And when we're going through a lot of challenging and stressing times, our emotional strength and our vulnerability can really take a big hit. And so if we understand our emotional strength and manage and know how to harness our emotions effectively, that can be really helpful for these challenging times. So I want to talk about emotional awareness first. And so emotional awareness is being able to recognize, but also understand your emotions. And that is really the first step towards emotional resilience. And we want to improve our emotional awareness by journaling. I mean, if we keep a journal and track our emotions and our triggers, that just helps us bring more introspection, reflection, and more awareness about ourselves. We can use name it techniques. So the feelings wheel is a really good one that I use with clients of like labeling emotions, because once we label them and we understand them, then we know how to regulate them. We can also practice self-reflection. So how am I feeling right now? And like checking in with ourselves throughout the day, because if we're trying to be more aware of our emotions, we actually have to stop and ask ourselves, what are we feeling? We are so good at going into autopilot and just going with the emotions and going to the next thing that we actually never stop and ask ourselves, how are we feeling? Some good tools and apps to do this with if you need a little extra assistance. Dailyo, which is a mood tracking app. And it's kind of this micro journaling, kind of micro tracking. And it kind of allows you to log your emotions, but also your daily activities. And without requiring, lengthy journal entries, it can help you identify patterns in your mood and your behavior and really your habits over time. Plus, this app is like customizable, so you can do different mood indicators and activity tags, and it also checks in with you and gives you kind of this like visual data of your moods, which can be really helpful for reflection and awareness. The Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown is also a really good one because it explores the landscape of human emotions, and it breaks down over 87 emotions and experiences, and it provides you with like a deeper understanding of like how we process and communicate our feelings. And it kind of brings this like emotional literacy that stuff a lot of books or a lot of things we just don't go into. So not only being able to name, but also like make sense of these emotions so that we can actually navigate them and then navigate our relationships better, the challenges and the stresses, and then bring that personal growth part of that into our life. So once we identify and we bring awareness to our emotions, now we want to learn how to regulate them. And that's really just developing some techniques to help manage them in more healthy ways. So we want to practice some like deep breathing, maybe progressive muscle relaxation. We might want to use visualization techniques to help reduce your stress. We can also seek, therapy to help us regulate our emotions. Here's some good apps. Wiza is another one, kind of like Wobot, which is an AI-based emotional support app. And it kind of helps you, it kind of offers this like emotional support, these coping strategies, and also some self-care tools. But you can do this anytime, anywhere. And it also integrates like evidence-based techniques like CBT and DBT and mindfulness to kind of offer that personalized coping skills. Again, this isn't therapy, but this chatbot really helps you kind of work through problems and helps regulate your emotions. But then it also includes some like guided exercises, some mood tracking, and the options to connect with therapists if you need like more deeper support. There's also the Dialectical Behavioral Therapy Skills Workbook, and I use this one with my clients who are learning DBT strategies. And this kind of teaches you DBT techniques like emotional regulation, distress tolerance, interpersonal effectiveness, and this mindfulness. And it's a workbook, so it kind of goes through different worksheets and has these concepts that you can work through. And it provides, structured exercises and like real world applications, and also gives you like some self-assessments to help you build some emotional strength and navigate challenges with more confidence. And that's the key word, confidence, because we want to build self-confidence, because building self-confidence is kind of this really big key component to emotional resilience. And when you believe in yourself, you handle setbacks with a lot greater ease than the typical person. And we want to build self-confidence by kind of creating these small achievable goals and also celebrating our progress when it happens. We can also use this by, practicing those positive affirmations that we were talking about earlier in the episode, and also engaging in activities that really align with your strengths, like what are you really good at? Some resources for this: The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. This really explores how self-esteem is not just about feeling good, but about developing a deeper, unshakable sense of your self-worth. And he introduces these 6 key practices. He refers to them as pillars that help individuals strengthen their confidence, but also make empowered decisions and help navigate challenges with that resilience. There's also Think Up, which is a positive affirmations app if you're looking for more affirmation space. And this app allows you to record and listen to your own affirmations, and it helps make them more impactful and reinforcing positive talk. I love this idea because, again, if we're using it in our own language, plus we're also hearing it in our own voice, it tends to stick and be a lot more effective than us just reading affirmations or saying them, but we're actually having them listened or repeated back to us. And when we have something being repeated back to us, we can also develop that self-compassion, which we were talking about earlier, but then that also builds that empathy. And empathy enhances emotional strength by creating meaningful connections, not only with yourself, but with others. And we can do that by our active listening, by not interrupting and not judging, by putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, or even really just getting out in the community and volunteering and engaging with other people. Daring Greatly is a really good book by Brene Brown, and it kind of presents that vulnerability as that key to building that resilience and courage in those meaningful connections. And she does a lot of extensive research on shame, fear, and authenticity, and she explains how embracing vulnerability actually allows us to live more wholly and wholeheartedly, and navigate setbacks with confidence and cultivate this kind of emotional strength. Plus, there's also some practical insights in overcoming self-doubt, building that shame resilience, and developing the courage to show up fully in your life. So this is a really good book to start with if you want to learn about empathy and how to create vulnerability in your life. So let's go back and cover everything that we just learned, because resilience isn't just about avoiding hard times. It's about learning how to move through them with strength and also self-awareness. As we wrap up our episode, I want you to reflect on one strategy we talked about that resonated with you the most. Maybe it's practicing self-compassion, maybe it's strengthening your support system, or maybe it's building a mindfulness habit. Whatever it is, I want you to commit to taking one small step toward it this week. And hey, I love to hear from you. Let me know what strategy stood out to you by sharing your thoughts in the comments or sending me a message on any of our handles, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. I'll put all the links in the show notes for all of these handles. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who might need a little resilience boost today. So until next time, take care, be kind to yourself, and remember, you're stronger than you think. See you in the next episode. This podcast may contain affiliate links, and if you click on these links and make a purchase, I may receive a small commission at no extra cost to you. I only recommend products and services that I personally use and believe will add value to you. Thank you for supporting the podcast.